Hello, good day, Sir Howard here. Ituloy natin yung discussion natin on the validity of psychological tests. This is the second episode that we have talking about paano ba mag-establish ng validity ng mga psychological tests. Remember, validity is the ability of the test to measure what it claims to measure, but we discussed in the first video, the one before this, na marami pang expressions ng validity other than the ability of the test to measure what it claims to measure. The ability of the test to predict future thinking and behavior is also validity. The ability of the test to make people take the test seriously is also an expression of validity. Yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon is the second category of validity procedures, the criterion prediction procedures. Specifically, ang pag-uusapan natin, paano mag-establish ng test validity gamit ang concurrent at ang predictive validity. Now, what is different in the second procedures compared to the first one? Remember, sa bawat isang box na nakikita nyo ngayon on the screen, these categories ask different questions about validity. Doon sa first box, yan yung focus natin nung last episode, is your test measuring the construct it is supposed to measure? This box is very different. Number 2, it asks the question, can a test predict future thinking and behavior? The key word here is predict. Kaya bang manghula ng psychological test mo ng isang pattern of thinking or behavior in the future? So if that is your question, kung yan yung gusto mong patunayan that your test can do, then ito yung mga procedures na gagamitin mo to prove that. Concurrent validity or predictive validity. Remember, uulitin ko lang, another definition or another expression of validity is the ability of the test to predict future thinking and behavior. Kapag yung test mo, merong kakayanan na manghula ng iisipin ng ibang tao or gagawin ng ibang tao in the future, that in itself is an expression of the validity of test. Para mas malinaw, bigyan ko kayo ng example or although hypothetical test lang ito, kung ano bang ibig sabihin ng isang test na nakakapag-predict ng thinking or behavior. Hypothetical test. Again, walang ganitong test, no? Ginawa ko lang to for the sake of explanation. Let's say we have a test, Howard's Risk of Suicide Test or the HRST. You look at the manual of this test at nakita mo sa manual na mataas pala ang predictive validity ng test na ito. What does that mean? If a certain psychological test has high predictive validity, ibig sabihin yan, meron siyang kakayanan na manghula kung ano ang mangyayari sa mga tao who will be taking this test. For example, let's pick up the high scorers. Dahil ang test na ito ay mataas ang predictive validity, makakaasa ka na yung mga matataas ang scores dito sa test na ito, more or less, more than 50% chance they will commit suicide. On the other hand, the reverse is also true. Yung mga low scorers naman sa test na ito, makakaasa ka na hindi sila magko-commit ng suicide. So we can easily predict what will happen to test takers who are high scorers versus who are low scorers. Bakit? Why are we so confident to predict what will happen to high scorers and low scorers? Because this test has good predictive validity. So yan yung ibig sabihin natin ng test na nakakapag-predict ng future thinking or behavior. Now, how do I know if my test has that ability? Meron bang kakayanan yung test ko na manghula ng mangyayari in the future of my test takers? Gagamit ka ng concurrent or ng predictive validity. Yan ngayon yung pag-uusapan natin. But let's first define the word criterion. Going back to that box, isa-isain ulit natin yung terms. Meron daw procedures. Ano raw yung procedures? Anong ginagawa ng procedures? Nagpe-predict. Ano daw ang pinipredict ng procedures? Yung tinatawag na criterion. So what do you mean by criterion? Ibig sabihin lang ng criterion, this is the numerical expression or the observable indicators of a test construct. Remember, in the last video, we discussed the meaning of the word construct. Construct means ito yung minemeasure ng isang psychological test. It could be intelligence or personality or stress, so on and so forth. Kung ano man ang minemeasure ng test mo, yun yung construct. So ano ngayon ang pinagkaiba ng construct sa criterion? This is the numerical expression of the construct. Mga observable indicators nung construct. Halimbawa, yung intelligence, sabi ko nga kanina, is a test construct. Question, ano kaya yung ibang mga observable indicators of intelligence? Or ano ba yung mga iba't ibang mga numerical expressions of intelligence? Yung kapag nakita mo tong number na ito, pwedeng mag-reflect yan ng intelligence ng tao. Examples would be school GPA. Yung school GPA, yung grade sa eskwelahan, can be the numerical expression of intelligence. Or yung grade niya sa isang IQ test, that is also a criterion of intelligence. Or siguro kung dadagdagan mo pa yan, pwedeng the number of books that the person has or the number of books that the person has already read. So again, criterion is the concrete or the numerical expression of the construct. Another example, extroversion. Ano ang posibleng numerical expression ng extroversion? When you see this number, pwede mong masabi na ito ay isang indication kung gaano ka-extroverted ang taong ito. One possible criterion would be the number of FB friends. 'Di ba? Posibleng criterion 'yan ng extroversion. Or siguro the number of social gatherings that a person attends. Pwede rin. How about aggression? Aggression is the construct. Yan yung pwedeng i-measure ng isang psychological test. But what could be a possible criterion of that construct? So, hanap na naman tayo. Ano kaya yung number na yon can reflect how aggressive a person is? Pwedeng number of school offenses. Ilang beses siyang nag-violate sa batas or ilang beses siyang nakipag-away. So that is the difference between construct and criterion. Construct is abstract while criterion is numerical. It's very important na alam mo yung ibig sabihin ng criterion kasi yan yung gagamitin natin mamaya in establishing concurrent or predictive validity. Now let's move on to case number 1 para pag-usapan na natin kung paano ba natin malalaman kung yung test ba natin nakakapag-predict ng future thinking and behavior. You read the case on your own, pause the video if you need to, and then we'll discuss. So based on case number 1, ito yung problema natin. No? As the school's chief psychometrician, what would you do to find out whether this test can really predict students who will get high college grades? Meron tayong test dito. Siyempre, gusto natin malaman kung meron ba siyang kakayanan na makapag-predict kung sino yung magiging magaling sa eskwelahan. So let's talk about the steps to solve this problem. Step 1. Siyempre, gagamitin mo yung exam na yan, i-administer mo yan sa mga incoming first year students. So yung mga papasok sa universidad, yan ngayon yung exam na gagamitin mo pang screen. And then, step 2, kunin mo yung kanilang mga raw scores. Step 3, dito ka na ngayon pipili ng future criterion. Again, what is criterion? The numerical expression of a construct. Ano ba yung construct ng test mo dito? Definitely, intelligence. So, given that your test is measuring intelligence, ano kaya ang magandang criterion for intelligence in the context of this case? Pwede nating piliin yung kanilang magiging grade sa 4th year. Pag 4th year na sila, ano kaya yung magiging GPA nila kapag sila ay 4th year na? So yan ngayon yung criterion that we are going to assign their GPA on their 4th year. Step 4, in-administer mo na sa kanila yung test, kinuha mo na yung raw score, alam mo na yung criterion na kukunin mo, aantayin mo ngayon yung criterion. Kasi sa step 3, going back, wala ka pa namang criterion dyan eh. Inassignan mo pa lang kung ano yung criterion mo. Eh yung criterion mo, GPA 4th year, ibig sabihin wala pa sila sa 4th year. Kasi nga, incoming first year students pa lang sila. So what you do is, you accept these incoming first year students, you accept these people in your school, and then antayin mo na mag fourth year sila, and from there kukunin mo ngayon yung GPA. Yun yung gagawin mo sa step 4. Aantayin mo sila na mag fourth year and get that criterion. Oras na nakatapak na sila sa fourth year, okay? Now you are ready to go or to do step 5. Iko-correlate mo na ngayon yung kanilang dalawang scores. Remember, ano ba yung dalawang scores that we are going to correlate here? Una, ano yung score nila doon sa step 1? Nung kumuha sila ng entrance exam na binavalidate natin, what is their raw score in that exam? You are going to correlate that with their GPA right now that they are now already in their fourth year. So if you can picture, if you can follow my line of thought here, ganito ang magiging itsura niyan, no? So dalawang columns, unang column yung entrance exam result, pangalawang column yung GPA nila nung fourth year na sila. So punong-puno ng mga scores yan, no? So alam naman natin na kapag ganyan ang forma sa statistika or SPSS, we are ready to correlate. Let's say we already did that. Ito ang lumabas na correlation coefficient. There is a direct and strong relationship between their entrance exam test score and their fourth year GPA. Sabihin natin direct and strong, positive 0.93. What does that mean? It means na kapag kinorelate mo yung dalawang variables na yan, those students who scored high in the entrance exam also had high GPA. While those students who scored low in entrance exam, mababa rin yung grade nila sa kanilang GPA nung fourth year na sila. To make the long story short, if your test is performing like this, ibig sabihin yan, merong abilidad yung test mo to predict who will be the good students and who will be the not so good students. Their entrance exam 3 years ago predicted their scores, predicted their GPA when they were already in their fourth year. So ituloy-tuloy mo yung paggamit ng entrance exam na yan dahil nga kaya niyang mahulaan kung sino ang magiging high scorer or low scorer sa GPA. Given kung ano yung score na makukuha ng mga test takers doon sa exam na yan. So it is a good test. It's a test that can predict future performance. Hindi maganda ang resulta kapag ganito kababa ang correlation. Kapag positive 0.18, meaning there is a weak relationship between the two. Diba? Kapag weak ang relationship, anong ibig sabihin yan? Again, ibig sabihin yan, mukhang walang pattern. Whether you are high or low, whether high or low ang entrance exam mo has nothing to do with your fourth year GPA. Diba? So, hindi mo siya pwedeng mahulaan. Ano man yung score mo nung entrance exam, wala siyang link, wala siyang connection doon sa iyong GPA. So, your test cannot predict future performance. Yung ginawa nating procedure na yan is called predictive validity, where in the process, we test the ability of the test to predict a future criterion. Kaya ba ng test mo na manghula ng isang criterion na mangyayari pa lang in the future? Now, ang disadvantage ng predictive validity is reflected in this case. Okay? So let's talk about this case. Read on your own silently. Ang problema dito, hindi ka pwedeng mag-predictive validity doing the steps we mentioned a while ago dahil bukas na kailangan yung resulta. Bukas na natin dapat malaman kung yung test ba na ito ay nakakapag-predict ng performance. Diba? Gusto na ng boss mo yung resulta tomorrow afternoon. So meron pa ring paraan para ma-establish natin kung nakakapanghula ba yung test mo. You know? Kahit na bukas na kailangan. Ang gagawin natin para magawa yan, step 1, we administer the test to those people. Diba? Remember ano nga yung test dito? Yung job efficiency test. So you administer the job efficiency test to the existing employees and then kunin mo yung raw score nila. Remember, yung construct nung test dito is job efficiency. Diba? O ngayon, step 2. This time, we select criterion. Pero ang pagkakaiba dito, yung criterion that we are going to select is a criterion that is already existing. Remember, in predictive validity, yung criterion natin wala pa sa atin. Hinintay pa natin after 3 years in the previous case. But given na bukas na kailangan ma-validate ng test na ito, wala tayong time to wait for 3 years. So what do? We select a criterion that is already existing. So ano kaya yung magandang criterion na nag-e-exist na given our test construct na job efficiency? Pwede natin gamitin yung supervisor's rating that these employees had last month. Nandyan lang naman sa filing cabinet yan. Nakaipit lang naman yan sa folder eh. 'Di ba? So hanapin natin yung rating na binigay sa kanila ng supervisor last month. So that will be the criterion. That's a good criterion for job efficiency. 'Di ba? Supervisor's rating is a numerical expression of job efficiency. At ang maganda pa sa supervisor's rating, existing na siya. Hindi mo na kinakailangan antayin. Hahalukayin mo na lang sa filing cabinet. Step 3, now you are going to correlate the two scores. Yung score na nakuha nila from the job efficiency test against the supervisor's rating na nakuha nila from last month. So fast forward, let's say kinorelate mo na naman yung dalawang scores na yon, dalawang columns na naman yon sa SPSS. First column, their job efficiency score. Second column, yung supervisor's rating nila last month. Sabihin natin yung correlation coefficient is positive 0.93. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Those employees who scored high in job efficiency test had high supervisor's rating last month, while those employees who scored low in job efficiency test happens to get low supervisor's rating last month. Ibig sabihin, yung job efficiency test na pinag-uusapan natin dito has the ability to predict supervisor's rating last month. Okay? Yan yung tinatawag nating concurrent validity. In this procedure, ang ginagawa naman natin, we are testing the ability of a test to predict an already existing criterion. Nag-e-exist na, kaya nga concurrent. Current na. Nag-e-exist yung criterion. In predictive validity, the criterion is not yet existing. Okay? So definitely, between the two, mas time efficient yung concurrent validity. Because in predictive validity, you still need to wait for the criterion to exist in the future. Sa concurrent kasi nandyan na yung criterion. Kaya, yung concurrent validity mas mabilis gawin in terms of time compared to predictive validity. Given that, if you can follow my line of thought, bakit hindi na lang tayo laging mag-concurrent validity kung mas mabilis naman palang gawin yan? 'Di ba? Kumpara sa predictive validity. Ang sagot dyan, dahil kapag ang isang test mataas ang predictive validity versus ang isang test mataas ang concurrent validity, yung mga test na mataas ang predictive validity, mas magaling pa rin silang manghula ng future behaviors. So again, let me repeat, no? Meron tayong dalawang test dito. Yung isang test, mataas ang predictive validity. Yung test B, mataas ang concurrent validity. Anong pinagkaiba nila? Yung test A, mas magaling sa hulaan. Mas nagiging accurate yung mga hula compared to test B because it has higher predictive validity than test B. 'Di ba? Yan yung lamang ng predictive validity over concurrent validity. Mas magaling manghula ng future outcomes yung mga test na matataas ang predictive validity. So let's be more specific here. For the sake of illustration, balikan natin yung hypothetical test na binigay ko kanina. Howard's risk of suicide test. Halimbawa, yung HRST, mataas lang siya sa concurrent validity versus same test, pero mataas siya sa predictive validity. Now, let's pick the 10 high scorers. Yung 10 high scorers doon sa HRST na concurrent validity ang established versus 10 high scorers na predictive validity ang established, sino ang mas lamang pagdating sa hulaan? Kung sino ang magko-commit ng suicide, mas maraming magko-commit ng suicide doon sa test na mas mataas ang predictive validity. Again, I don't know kung ilan out of 10, but definitely out of 10, mas marami siyang tamang hula. Sa mga 10 high scorers na to, ganito karami magko-commit ng suicide. Mas marami siyang tamang hula compared to a test with only a high concurrent validity. Ganun din naman sa job efficiency test. Let's say, job efficiency test na meron lang siyang concurrent validity versus same test, job efficiency test, mataas ang predictive validity. Let's pick 10 high scorers for each test. Ano na naman ang lamang ng predictive validity doon sa 10 high scorers na yan? Mas marami dyan ang sure ball na mataas ang performance sa trabaho or mas maraming mapopromote compared to the test na merong lang concurrent validity. So that's the difference between a test with high predictive validity and a test with high concurrent validity. Kaya alam niyo sa test development, mas pine-prefer ng mga test developers to establish predictive validity of the test more than concurrent validity. Kasi nga, kapag na-establish mo yung predictive validity ng test mo, mas magaling yung test mo manghula ng future thinking patterns or behaviors. Now, before we close this short video on this second category of establishing test validity, I want you to realize how important or how useful tests are kapag meron silang ability to predict the future. Halimbawa, number 1, kapag yung test mo maganda ang kanyang predictive validity, it can minimize errors in hiring, especially in the industrial world or in the corporate world. Kapag yung test mo kayang manghula kung sino magpe-perform well, kung sino ang magkakalat, hindi ka na magre-risk na bahala na kung sino yung mag-perform, sino yung hindi magpe-perform in your hiring. Because you can trust your test. Your test has a good predictive validity. Makakasigurado ka na yung mga papasa sa test na yon, sila yung magiging high performers. At yung mga mabababa sa test na yon, hindi sila magiging high performers, therefore, hindi mo na kaagad sila i-hire. Diba? It will save you time. It will save you money. Kumpara mo naman kung wala kang ganitong tool, dinadaan mo lang sa interview. Diba? Ano yan eh? Parang nagta-trial and error ka lang dyan eh. Pag interview ka lang ng interview, yun lang yung basihan mo to hire people, hindi mo malalaman kung sino yung magiging high performer or low performer. Pwede kang may ma-interview na hinire mo pero nagkalat. Pero kung meron kang test that can really predict sino ang high performer, sino ang low performer, mas maliit yung chance na you will hire someone na magkakalat in your company. Number 2, this test can also be used for preventive actions, lalong-lalo na sa mga eskwelahan. Halimbawa, meron kang test that can predict who are the students more likely to be depressed. Mataas ang tendency to be depressed. Imaginein mo, i-administer mo yan at the start of the semester. And you care about the mental health of your students. Ano ngayon ang pwedeng gawin ng guidance office dito? Kapag nakita na nila yung raw scores ng mga estudyante who took the test that can predict who will be depressed, kokolektahin na kaagad nila lahat ng pangalan ng mga estudyante who are high scorers in that test. At ano ang gagawin sa mga estudyante na yan? Sila na ngayon ang bibigyan ng special program dealing with depression. Habang hindi pa sila depressed. Yes, hindi pa sila depressed. Diba? Pero, based on the test, that can predict who will be depressed. Pwede mo na kaagad unahan yung depression. So, bago pa man sila ma-depress, bigyan mo na kaagad sila ng program para pag na-depress sila, at malamang sa malamang madidepress sila based on your test, alam na nila kung ano ang tamang gawin. And last one, number 3, a test that can predict future thinking or behavior is very useful for decision making. Lalong-lalo na sa pamimigay ng scholarships. Kapag meron kang test that can predict who will perform well in a school, who will not, it makes decision making easier kung kanino mo ibibigay yung scholarship. dahil itong 5 batang ito ay pumasa sa test na ito. At itong test na ito ay magaling manghula kung sino ang magiging high performers. Ibig sabihin nito, yung 5 batang ito magiging high performers kahit hindi ko pa sila nakikita sa SEM, but since the test tells me that they will be high performers in the future, sa kanila ko ibibigay yung scholarship. So, ganyan ka-useful yung mga test na nakakapanghula. So, it's also very important that if you develop a test, no, isa rin to sa mga bagay na chine-check mo. Kung yung test ba niya ito ay kaya niyang manghula ng future thinking and behavior, and how do you do that? By establishing the concurrent or the predictive validity of the test. So sana meron kayong natutunan from our short discussion of these procedures in establishing the validity of the test. Sa next episode natin, pag-uusapan natin yung last categories of procedures on how to establish the validity of the test. If you have any questions, meron kayong malabo na idea dito na hindi naintindihan, feel free to message me or to post a comment down below, and I'm going to do my best to answer your questions. Thank you everyone for listening. As always, God bless.